Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Folks, it's fitting that we're so close to so many holidays as I'm recording this episode because this one is going to be a gift to us all. While perusing the lower level of Pittsburgh's most famous comic shop, Ides Comics and Records, in the downtown/strip district area of Pittsburgh, I happened upon this gem just sitting on the used trade paperback/graphic novel shelf. It is a first printing of Marvel Comics trade paperback number 2, The Uncanny X-Men, which represents in its entirety the Dark Phoenix saga covering X-Men's 129 through 137. As a kid, 14 years old, I pursued this doggedly when it came out in 1984. It was a book that was an immediate sensation for Marvel. It sold out, went through multiple printings. It's important that this one is actually the first edition. When I grabbed it the other day, the binding was not the spiral binding. I noticed that the binding was cracked and the book was just about ready to fall apart. That's why I only had to pay $7.95 for it. Note the price was $6.95 in 1984 for a multiple hundred-page graphic novel. So this was a different time, obviously. Quick history on this presentation of these collections, these early Marvel collections. Marvel had recently left its partnership with Fireside Books, who was doing their first collections like Bring on the Bad Guys and some other ones, all with Stan Lee's name emblazoned on the cover. And they started their own. They said, why can't we just do this ourselves? So they started producing their own trade paperbacks. The first one, notice there's a little number 2 here obscured by the spiral binding I had put on this book, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This number up here is a 2. The first book that Marvel self-published as a trade paperback was Mighty Marvel Team-Up Thrillers, which had, of course, presented by Stan Lee emblazoned on the cover. So this one is number 2, Uncanny X-Men. And I think the other one that was numbered, the third one, was The Power of Iron Man. And after that, I think they got rid of this numbering scheme that they had on the covers. Also, it's cool to note on this one that Stan Lee's name appears nowhere on the cover. I think they got this incredible Bill Sienkiewicz cover, who was getting hot at the time that this came out, and they figured they would just let the cover speak for itself without any other affectation or labeling or anything else. So, the spiral binding. When I brought this book home, I realized that the spine was in dire shape. The glue had failed, being over 30 years old. This was a common thing that happened with these. Even if you had just bought it back in the 80s and read it repeatedly like I did, it began to fall apart. So I realized there was enough margin in the pages that I could get away with a spiral binding. The paper that these are printed on is almost like a Baxter paper, and it's gorgeous. And you can see it's held up very well over time. And an interesting artifact of this, we have a table of contents. We have a lengthy introduction from Stan Lee. I'll just read his final paragraph. Let's read what's leading up to it. And there's more, much more. You'll see the return of the beast, the angel, Elandra, the gorgeous, majestic Shiar, who must battle the man she most loves. Sheesh, it isn't fair. I could go on yapping all day, but why merely hint at the brain-blasting thrills in store for you when you can read them yourself on the pages that follow? And it sounds like I'm being noble by cutting this intro short to let you get to the real stuff. Forget it. I'm just thinking of me, itching to reread these sagas myself. So let's go, muty lover. Wonderment beckons, and the universe entire will be our arena. The best still lies ahead. Excelsior, Stan. So, yeah, a nice lengthy intro. I'm not going to read it all. Another interesting thing, they don't include the covers. It's the only downside to this particular production. And I think as a kid, I really didn't even notice it, but it was immediately apparent to me when I began paging through this the other day before I took it down to the printer to get it rebound. No covers. They do have, before each issue, a character featured, a piece of art from the story. And so that's a neat thing. But another fascinating thing is the indicia for each issue is still included. In common graphic novels, this is never seen. You never see the indicia, but here it is. It gives the original publication date and all the information. So it's like they just scanned it from the original plates and made no adjustments to it at all, save leaving out the cover. So pretty interesting. So we're just going to flip through this entirely. I'm not going to obviously read this whole thing. That would be hours. But I just want to read through it, page through it with you folks, and just take it all in and enjoy it, because I just love this thing so much, and I was so excited to happen upon it. It was extremely fortuitous. So 129 is God Spare the Child. The X-Men are leaving Scotland after their deadly struggle with Proteus. They leave behind Banshee, who's currently depowered due to his injuries, and Moira McTaggart, who's just suffered a terrible trauma, having to see her son Proteus slain. He was the original Mutant X and a terrible villain who murdered many people. And Colossus was the X-Man who ended up doing the deed, finally killing him, because Proteus' body was highly susceptible to metal. Jamie Madrox being left behind as well, even though Cyclops offers him a membership in the X-Men. He's never been a frontline hero. So here we have the X-Men on their Blackbird, going back home, making the transatlantic flight, and it passes up another private jet, and this man, Jason Wingard, aka Mastermind, who has been slowly invading Jean's mind, with his own mesmeric powers and some additional technological assistance. He does it again here and transports her back into the 18th century. So this is all part of his plan to suborn her and bring her into the Hellfire Club and let him take over the Hellfire Club. That's going to be eventually the thing that's going to tip the tide here between Phoenix to Dark Phoenix. Right now, Jean Grey Phoenix has placed a number of blockers on her powers so that she can better control them, and Mastermind's influence is going to eat away at those blockers. Here we have them cementing their romance. Jean, you're everything to me. As necessary as the air I breathe. I used to say I love you without truly knowing what I was talking about. I know now, a little anyway. Jean, I love you, and I you, Scott, with all my heart. So that tragedy is brewing for them. The X-Men get home. They realize that someone is in the mansion, and they burst in, and it's Charles Xavier back from his trip into the stars with Lilandra. So Xavier wants to see where the X-Men are, and in terms of their skills and abilities, and it's not going well. Xavier says off panel, Wolverine, where are you going, Wolverine? Ease up, mister. What's going on in there? I'm no kid anymore, Summers, and I'm no flaming amateur. So where does Chrome Dome get off treating me like one? You tell Xavier what I told you, bub. Wolverine don't jump through hoops for nobody. Let's see here. Scott, notify Wolverine that his childish outburst will cost him 10 demerits. So Xavier has been away from the X-Men for months and months. They've been through so much, and he's coming back in and trying to ride herd on them again as if they were the original X-Men team. So it's not a good look. It's not going over well. And Scott tries to explain to Xavier, Professor, we are a team. Quiet. You're correct. I have been remiss in my duties. I have not taught the new X-Men, in part because I trusted you to take that responsibility. That lapse will be speedily rectified. So this was some subplot Claremont was brewing over, some kind of leadership struggle between Xavier and Cyclops for the X-Men, but that really gets put on the back burner. They detect a couple of powerful mutants, so the X-Men are going to go investigate them. Meanwhile, we have Jason Wingard making his case to the Hellfire Club. And here we have our first a meeting with Kitty Pryde. So this is X-Men 129's the first appearance of Kitty Pryde, and she's being hotly recruited by the White Queen in her Massachusetts Academy. It's guised as a regular school, and at the same time arriving the Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, also to recruit Kitty. Wolverine thinks as the White Queen walks by him, "Nice looking frail. Something about her, the scent, though, raises the hackles on my neck. Wonder why." So, great bit of characterization there. Here, they take Kitty for ice cream, and Storm basically just tells her that they're X-Men. Wolverine's looking at dirty books, runs afoul of the shopkeeper, but before that can get any worse, scratch. These Hellfire Club agents come in. Looks like they're in some kind of modified Mandroid armor. Again, Byrne just brilliantly doing techno-fantasy armor design and tech design. And this is great here, too. This looks like the back of a Stormtrooper's armor. Very cool effect there. Great battle scenes here by Byrne and Austin. They're at the top of their game here. It just doesn't get any better than this. And the X-Men, despite Charles Xavier's entreaties that they were out of shape and not working as a team, crushed these dudes pretty easily. Great shot here, Kang, of Colossus just taking this guy out with a blow to the back of the neck here. And they're piling him up. So here Kitty uses her powers to get out. But the X-Men are taken by a psychic bolt from the White Queen, who shows up on scene in this awesome-looking Hellfire Club flyer, which is pretty cool. And yeah, the fact that this dude can just carry Wolverine himself, he must be pretty strong, because Wolverine's no lightweight. He weighs 200 pounds. He's just got him under his arm like a sack of potatoes. So those guys that the Hellfire Club sent, the armored dudes, they just blow them up. So they're pretty ruthless. So the X-Men are captured, at least 3 of them are, and Kitty Pryde stows aboard. So this is the debut of Kitty Pryde 129. 130 is the debut of the Disco Dazzler. Pretty awesome. And the title is simply Dazzler. Very cool. So here, the other half of the X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler are going to investigate Dazzler, whereas that previous team was trying to get Kitty. So here they are. Little do they know they're being watched. Jean Grey, aka a Marvel Girl, aka Phoenix, extremely high-range telepath, telekinetic, full potential unknown, handled with extreme care. So they've got profiles on all of them. And Nightcrawler has to hang out on the roof because he can't. He's not using his image inducer anymore, so he can't go into this bar to see the show. So Cyclops and Jean Grey are going in to see the show where Dazzler is. And Scott is having Jean scan the crowd. Just the reproduction on this reprint of these stories is excellent. The color is so much richer than the newsprint, but the pages have just such a nice texture and feel to them. This is a reprise of 129. Kitty is nosing around the Hellfire Club headquarters trying to find the X-Men. They have Xavier captured as well. And here's the 3 X-Men stripped down to their skivvies. There's some kind of inhibitor on these cages. So Storm gives Kitty something, a lockpick from her costume, and she gets away before they can get to her. Meanwhile, back at the club, Wingard makes another play for Phoenix. And here we have the first appearance of her as the Black Queen. And this is obviously in her mind, but we will see her physically wear this outfit as well. And here she's kissing Jason Wingard, not only in her fantasy, but also in real life, as they say. And Scott sees it and is pretty freaked out. Scott, let me explain. But how do I explain? I'm not even sure what happened myself. Did an ancestor of mine marry an ancestor of Wingard's? And that ceremony, those clothes, what kind of woman was she? But before they can get into it, we see the first appearance of the Dazzler. It's pretty awesome here by Byrne and Austin. Here, Kitty is calling the mobile phone in the X-Men's Rolls Royce. She lets Nightcrawler know what's going on. Wait, slow down, girl. I need details. Who captured the X-Men? And where are they being held? But before Nightcrawler can do anything, another one of those armored Hellfire goons shows up and tears the door off their $100,000 limo. And they seem to have a counter for all the X-Men's powers. Here we see Jean wielding her power. She transformed my street clothes into my costume just like that. I'm beginning to wonder if there's any limit to Phoenix's power. And that's going to become a recurring theme as we move along here. And again, these armored goons seem to have a counter for the X-Men, but they weren't counting on Dazzler, who's not a fighter, but she's pretty game. So here, Phoenix overwhelms this armored Hellfire Club guy, and the four mutants leave together, and Wingard's laughing because things, even though there's a setback, things are coming together. And here, great flourish by Byrne and Austin, I'm sure at the instruction of Claremont. We see Wingard, but his shadow is that of a more familiar figure, Mastermind. So that's one of our hints that he is not really Jason Wingard, but really Mastermind. The old, long-running X-Men villain from the old X-Men. All right, so we're on to issue 131, Run for Your Life. Kitty's still on the run here. Again, Phoenix showing her power, easily lifting the X-Men with her TK, flying to the roof. Here, she just weaves her uniform back into street clothes to calm Kitty down and comforts her. So here, Kitty doesn't have a ton of interaction with Jean Grey, but she still feels the loss of Jean Grey pretty extensively later on after the X-Men get back to the Earth and she joins the team, because she does have some emotional connection with her. And here, the Hellfire Club, Jean telepathically interrogates one of their goons, and they get a lot of information. The Hellfire Club, but in my time slips, the psychic flashbacks I've experienced lately, I found myself living the life of an ancestor who was married to a member of that club, a man named Jason Wingard. So, and this is before she establishes the rapport between her and Scott, the psychic rapport. So he doesn't know what she's thinking. That's coming up. White Queen torturing Storm. Great shot here of Kitty using her powers, figuring out a new use for her powers as she disrupts the electronic lock. And I always loved this one as a kid, when she tries to lift Wolverine. Criminy, Wolverine's not much taller than me, but he weighs a ton. Because he has all that metal in his body. Plus, he's pretty much a solid muscle. All right, but Kitty gets zapped, but Wolverine isn't liking that. Sucker, you just made the biggest mistake of your life and the last. So again, before the Immortal 133, which I've covered on the show already in a previous episode, this is Wolverine threatening to use his claws on a real person. So whether he does or doesn't, we don't know. So here, White Queen's continuing to torture Storm, try to break her, but she can't. But now she meets her match. All they'll find when they reach this chamber is a mindless thing, human only in physical form. You, Storm. Is that so? Who? Phoenix? The one and only. And you're Emma Frost, the Hellfire Club's White Queen. I understand you call yourself something of a telepath. Well, Your Majesty, Let's see how good you really are. Great shot. This is really a foreshadowing of Dark Phoenix. Look at the menace in that face. Just brilliantly done. Just stunning, dazzling stuff here. Colossus taking this guy out. And here we see this amazing psychic battle taking place between the White Queen and Phoenix. And Aurora watching in horror as she sees Phoenix's power on display. The Phoenix effect is so beautiful, yet so terrible, like Jean herself. I've seen her like this only once before, in the heart of the M'Kron crystal, before she saved the universe from destruction. That was back X-Men 108. White Queen can't match her. She just basically destroys her, just wrecks her brain. And then incredible explosion here with the Phoenix effect, and Jean Grey emerges with Storm. Professor X, I knew I was right in holding back and playing observer. Now let's be on our way before the authorities arrive. So great transition panel. We see all of our characters in the exact same positions that they were, but they're back outside. Sunrise finds them on Central Avenue in Deerfield in front of Kitty Pryde's house. So they're back in Chicago, basically. It's just really cool symmetry here by Byrne and Austin. Love Dazzler's outfit here and the sunglasses, very cool. And again, just like Madrox, Dazzler doesn't want to be an X-Man. She doesn't want to be a superhero. She does get her own book eventually, though, and does the hero thing eventually. Joins the X-Men later on, much later on. And here Xavier crosses a line, and Kitty Pryde's dad, he basically makes him forget everything that happened. Suddenly, he's all sweetness and light, and the professor seems as surprised as me. But if he didn't change Pryde's mind, who? I forget. Yeah, it wasn't Professor X. Jean Grey did it. So another transgression from Jean Grey. Jean, you didn't. Just doing what comes naturally. I know you don't approve of me or the professor using our psi powers like this, Scott. But Kitty's father wasn't about to listen to reason. So to spare everyone a lot of unnecessary grief, I modified his memories and his wife's memories a little. So, again, things are changing. So here we have, and Hellfire is their name. So, great shot here of Jean Grey in her Black Queen outfit. I think going to be toward the end of this issue. So this is 132. They go to see Angel and his place in Arizona. We get a reprise of previous issues. Angel's a member of the Hellfire Club since he's rich, but he's not a member of the Inner Circle and has no knowledge of any of the sort of weird goings on there. Here we have the incredible and iconic picnic on the Butte with Phoenix and Cyclops. And this is where she psychokinetically holds back his eye beams with her power so she can see his face. And they have a moment of extreme love and passion there. So nice, but ultimately tragic. And here's another one of those cool transitions too. We go from the natural landscape, the natural skyscrapers of Arizona to the man-made skyscrapers of Manhattan. Very cool. And it's raining, and that's going to become important, obviously. Here we have an iconic shot of Nightcrawler and Wolverine in the sewers below the Hellfire Club. Wolverine really showing his covert agent side by exposing these wires so that when the water rises, a blackout can eventually occur. Xavier is coordinating things with Angel in costume now. And the X-Men are infiltrating this party, this Inner Circle party. Angel got them the invitations. So there's Donald Pierce, member of the Inner Circle, Cyborg, main villain of the New Mutants graphic novel. And here we have Harry Leland, Jason Wingard, and Sebastian Shaw, head of the Black King of the Hellfire Club. And again, Jean time slips due to Mastermind's influence. And here we see him revealed. He shows himself. So it is Mastermind. and Cyclops is blasted by a bolt. It says Jean has completed the transformation of Jean into the Black Queen. And here we have a brief, spectacular but brutal fight between the X-Men and the Inner Circle. Here's Sebastian Shaw and what passes for his costume. Colossus hitting him, and he shows his mutant power. Wrong, my tin-plated comrade. If anything, your punch has made me stronger than ever. So here Colossus gets a rare kick in. You don't see him kicking people very often, but Shaw is not affected. He gets up and continues to kick Colossus's butt. Storm drops a pea soup fog on him. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler and Wolverine are making their entrance, and Nightcrawler is seized by the cyborg Donald Pierce, and Wolverine slashes him and reveals that. That's a pretty cool show of his superhuman strength. Great line here. You may be a $6 million man, bub, but when I'm done with you, $6 billion won't be enough to put you back together. So here, Harry Leland shows his power. He makes Wolverine so heavy that he smashes through multiple levels of the mansion into the flooded sewers. And in a great sequence here, Shaw finishes off Storm. And they toast the new Black Queen. And of course, this is so iconic and so awesome. We see Wolverine is not done. And again, I've talked a lot about 133 on a previous episode. Basically went through the classic X-Men version of that issue. It's awesome. Check it out if you haven't already. Nice shot, isolated shot of Wolverine stalking here. So I'm just going to fly through this one. As I said in my previous episode, this is really the second or third issue, the final kind of thing that puts Wolverine on the map as like a superstar character. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Scott and Jean now have this psychic rapport. Scott's going to try to use that to get at Jean and free her from Mastermind's influence. Meanwhile, Wolverine's fighting alone. He gets overwhelmed. Scott's ploy seemingly fails as he is killed in the psychic realm, but is he actually dead in the physical realm? Too late, the heroes, a prologue to disaster. So here we see Cyclops isolated on this page. X-Men Volume 1, number 134, Too Late, the Heroes. Tale of Triumph and Tragedy. So here we have the Black Queen, Jean, looking a little pensive even as the Black Queen there. What she sees in reality is not what she sees in her mind. Wolverine was not truly overwhelmed by those thugs. It was kind of a tease. Here he burst through the door, providing just the distraction necessary for Jean Grey, whose Scott's ploy, Cyclops' ploy actually worked. He sort of freed her from Wyngarde's influence, Mastermind's influence. While she seemingly zaps Wolverine, she secretly frees Cyclops. And the rest of the X-Men are now free. Great shot here. Scram of Cyclops blasting Harry Leland out of the room. That's gotta hurt. And now Wolverine's gonna pay him back. Great shot here from the colorist with the way Mastermind is melding into the background there, almost like a chameleon. Little tear here, but that's okay. You're gonna expect that on a book this old. Wolverine plummeting down, up, and enter the Beast, Hank McCoy. Totally awesome. Probably, I don't think there's an artist who draws the Beast better than Byrne. He just has an affinity for these animalistic characters. Same thing with Sasquatch, who he created. There's not an artist who can draw Sasquatch like Byrne does. So this is awesome. Beast is on duty at Avengers Mansion. He notices a police APB Hellfire Club reports attack by group believed to be X-Men. He erases the tape and leaves. As far as I know, he never faces any consequences for this in the Avengers, and it's not really mentioned. So, here he's reading The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. Pretty awesome. Cool, he's holding it with his foot. Very neat. So characterful. Here Colossus asserts himself and literally breaks Harry Leland's arms, or Donald Pierce's arms. This one is not fully separated, so I'm not going to force it yet on camera. We'll do that later. So the X-Men are overcoming the inner circle, and meanwhile, Wingard thinks he's going to get away, Mastermind, but he's not. We can see here that he did his work too well. So Jean is, he takes the device out that he was projecting. She takes the device away from Mastermind that he was using to project illusions into her mind and suborn her. And she just basically crushes his mind. Very well then, I'll grant you your wish. I'll give you the power, Jason Wingard, such as no living being has ever dreamed of. Please, no. And in this awesome sequence here, she breaks his mind. So she's not herself here. They're trying to get her out. And Shaw's at least happy that the X-Men have been made into public enemy number one. But here we have the appearance of Dark Phoenix. So Jean is no longer Phoenix. She's no longer the Black Queen, no longer Phoenix. She is Dark Phoenix. And next, Dark Phoenix. And there she is right there. What a splash page. Totally awesome. Her name is Jean Grey, a young woman of extraordinary beauty, strength, courage, passion, a superpowered mutant telepath, telekinetic, a charter member of the Uncanny X-Men. None of that has changed, and yet everything has changed. Just take a second. Look at that splash page. Totally awesome. I love this paper. The texture is just unlike anything you see today. It's just so nice. And the color on it is just perfectly vivid. Great long panel here. Jean Grey just as Dark Phoenix now. Just, she's on a power level beyond anything the X-Men have experienced. So here, there is a short but vicious battle. And this awesome shot of her transforming Colossus back into his human form and then transforming this tree he was holding into solid gold and pinning him and Wolverine underneath of it. Together in Colossus' human form and Wolverine with his prodigious strength, they might have held this tree up, but transformed into solid gold, not going to happen. They're pinned under it. Storm's no match for her. Nightcrawler and Cyclops are no match for her. You and I are quits now, X-Men. Our paths will cross no more. My destiny lies in the stars. So she leaves. Here, a subplot that's going to pay off in the early 140s. We have Sebastian Shaw and Robert Kelly, the senator who has political aspirations and a strong anti-mutant sentiment. We see the Phoenix Force over Manhattan. And then we see a great shot here of our larger Marvel Universe, great series of panels here. Great Burn FF, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, by Hogarth. I sense images of great mystic power, great passion, great evil. But what meaning do they have for Doctor Strange? And the Silver Surfer. Can it be I sense a kindred soul, a child of the stars, so like the Silver Surfer, and yet not like me at all? She is human, flawed, and that flaw bids fair to destroy her. I must aid her if I can. So, and they say for more of the Silver Surfer, see Epic Illustrated #1. So, but before Surfer can involve himself, she's gone. As she flies away, Beast shows up on the scene with the Quinjet of the Avengers, lands to help the X-Men. And this panel is so great. Don't look now, Scotty, but I think the lady just cracked a joke. Oof. Move it, you two. I'm not holding this all night. So Beast, super strong, but not in Colossus's category, lifts the tree and allows them to get out of there and then puts down. I don't know if this has ever been done, but it would be awesome if someone did a story, like an X-Men Legends story or something, about whatever happened to this gold tree, because it could certainly solve any city or state's debt crisis. And it would be just fun to see like a group of villains trying to steal it or something. It would be great. It might be something I need to do in a role play game, I think. So yeah, I think I might have just come up with a plot idea for my next Villain Mission Force game. All right, moving along here. The X-Men leave in the Quinjet. Xavier and Angel are still in Arizona. I'm sorry, I've been saying Arizona through this video, but it's actually New Mexico. The New Mexico mountaintop home of another former X-Man, Warren Worthington III, better known as the High Flying Angel. So, here's Xavier talking about Phoenix. Too much power, I fear, too soon. Jean is too young. She lacks the awareness necessary to control her now limitless abilities. So here, Phoenix commits her ultimate transgression. She warps into another galaxy, finds a star, consumes that star, and in doing so, destroys an entire planet, Dabari, of inhabited people, inhabited by people. So it just a total mass killing of sentient beings, a crime on a galactic scale, something the level of Galactus, really, if you think about it. And then she encounters this Shi'ar cruiser, and they try to battle her, and things don't go well. So here they're calling Lilandra, trying to warn her, and they see the Phoenix effect over their, Lilandra sees the Phoenix effect over transmission, and bam, great open panel here by Byrne and Austin, just awesome. The lack of color is startling, it's very cool. So yeah, she destroys an entire flagship of the Shi'ar Imperium. So now the X-Men have to come up with a plan. Through his links, Cyclops senses, oh no, Scott, what's wrong? It's Phoenix. I can sense her in my mind through the psionic rapport we share. She's returning to Earth, and she's hungry. Child of light and darkness next. Ah, yes, the Beast gets his ISO here. Very cool. Love it. Child of light and darkness. So this is 136. Phoenix is coming back to Earth. Meanwhile, galactically, Lilandra has resolved to do something about her threat that she poses to the galaxy. Great shot of President Jimmy Carter here. Everyone's worried, even the president. Here, great shot, great panel here of Beast showing his technical skills, feverishly working on a device that can somehow limit Phoenix's powers. Meanwhile, the X-Men are training, trying to stay sharp. And Dark Phoenix comes back to Earth but stops at her home. Annandale-on-Hudson, New York. A sleepy little college hamlet, some 50 miles as the proverbial crow flies, northwest of the X-Men's mansion headquarters. So she comes home and she sees her parents, but she can't control her telepathic powers. And her parents here and her sister are very worried about her appearance. And we notice here very cleverly a pea soup fog has fallen, so we know who's about to show up. Great shot of her losing control. You fear me, all of you, and with good reason. What I do to this plant, I can just as easily do to you. Good grief, she turned it into crystal. Who are you? What are you? In heaven's name, what do you want from us? I am what I am. I was your daughter. No, you're not mine, not any part of me. I deny you. I cast you out. Dad, no, please. Watch your tone with me, old man. You dance with death and worse, eh? So she now recognizes the X-Men are here. And Nightcrawler shows up and puts this limiter on her. So it's enough to allow the X-Men to actually do battle with her and maybe have a fighting chance. Her powers are limited, but they're still incredible. Here, Beast grabs her, and then Wolverine knows that he has to take matters into his hands. The only way to stop it is to kill her, but he realizes he can't do it. Finish me with your claws. I beg you. I don't want to hurt you. But then she blasts him away, and she overrides the Scrambler. This was an admirable ploy, X-Men, but a ploy that failed. So here she grabs them and takes them prisoner. They're powerless against her. But then Cyclops shows up. I hunger, Scott, for a joy of a rapture beyond all comprehension. That need is a part of me, too. It consumes me. But then Xavier also appears, and this is an incredible psychic battle here. And these pages, something like this is never going to be reproduced. I mean, it's just genius in the moment of its creation. And the colors, the dialogue, the pacing, everything is just incredible. The Phoenix rises, the Cyborg begins, the insane young telepath versus her teacher. In a death duel between the strongest mutant minds on Earth, the struggle is epic, waged simultaneously on all the infinite planes of existence. And eventually, Xavier wins because Jean was helping him. Would have lost, but I sensed Jean fighting her Phoenix self, helping me. Bless you, child. I am so proud of you. So Phoenix is here completely naked outside of her costume. So now let me just explain exactly how. It's important to read this because it kind of gets you to understand what's going to be the setup for the next issue. Not long ago, yet for Jean, a lifetime ago, Phoenix bound a rogue neutron galaxy within a stasis field of living anti-energy, thereby preventing that ultimate black hole from destroying the entire universe. Now, in much the same way, Charles Xavier seeks to bind Dark Phoenix once more, within an unbreachable network of psionic circuit breakers. The end comes suddenly. One moment, the Phoenix effect is lighting up the countryside like a small sun. The next, Jean Grey collapses to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. So now she's just Marvel Girl again. And here, Mr. Grey gives her his robe to protect her. But then, suddenly, the X-Men are teleported away. Next issue, the end of an epic, a 35-page masterwork, The Fate of the Phoenix. And here we have Colossus. And our story opens up with the Watcher, so we know it's big. He's watching. This is an event of extreme import. So it's great that they use him as kind of a framing sequence narrator. And this is probably the only point at where my spiral binding actually fails, because it does actually cut into some of the artwork on this double page spread here. But it's only 2 pages, and I still don't regret doing it because it's just a great way to experience this collection, especially since the binding had utterly failed. So, but if you do manage to locate a copy of this, just bear in mind, if you get it spiral bound, this double page spread is going to be affected by it. Still an amazing spread, totally awesome. Love the Beast's words here. Let me put it this way, Psych. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. So they are on a Shi'ar flagship of Majestic Salandra, and we can see Gladiator, head of the Imperial Guard / the Legion of Superheroes, in the background. So Lilandra has basically said that Jean Grey has to die. She destroyed the star system that fed the planet Dabari and killed all of the innocents living on Dabari, the sentients. She destroyed a Shi'ar flagship. She is a danger in spite of the X-Men saying that, oh, we fixed her. She's just Jean Grey, Marvel Girl now. So Lilandra basically says, warriors, take her. But Xavier has been and lived among the Shi'ar. Lilandra, wait. Jean Grey, Arcanin, Halar. For Jean Grey's life, I challenge you to a duel of honor. Magnificent, Charles. You learned much about the Shi'ar during your 2 brief stay on my homeworld. The Arcanin Halar is the one challenge that cannot be refused. Charles, my beloved, had the fates weaved a different tapestry, we might have had the stars. Instead, we face nothing but the ashes of dying dreams. Claremont just crushing it on the dialogue on this one. Well, Empress, do you accept? So after a brief parley with the Skrulls and the Kree, they accept, but they will have their observers. Raxor and Beldon will be on scene to make sure everything is above board. And I will do a later show on Fantastic Four Annual number 18, which is a great coda to this particular story. And it features Raxor and Beldon and some great Mark Bright artwork. Very cool. So the X-Men accept the challenge and they have a night to get ready, rest, recuperate. Each X-Man has a moment, starting with Jean Grey. And this Shiar Taylor, I assume, brings her some new fighting togs. Here, Nightcrawler and Angel have their moment. Wolverine, pretty cool, coming out of the shower here, has his moment. I stand by Jeannie all the way. Great. This is my favorite, of course, because it's Beast. It's so awesome. Let me just pick up a few of Beast's thoughts here. If she wants Jean's life, she should prove her case in a proper court beyond a reasonable doubt and give Jean a chance to defend herself. Lilandra's exercise in raw, naked power, might making right, is as reprehensible as in its own way as Dark Phoenix's, and I, for one, am not going to stand for it. Well, hello. I am your masseur, sir. I've been sent to look after your every need. Oh, my stars and garters. So the Beast is going to have a restful night, I'm sure. Here, Colossus gets his moment, Storm hers, and then we finish up with Jean coming to Cyclops during his moment. What? Jean, you read my mind? I no longer have the power of Phoenix, Scott, but I'm still a telepath, and we still share our psychic rapport. You're dressed as Marvel Girl. Why? I'm not sure. Nostalgia, pride. I started as Marvel Girl, and that's how I'll finish. Scott, am I worth it? I destroyed a world. In my mind, I can still hear the screams of the dying, and it felt good. I know, but to give up, that'll be like saying that Dark Phoenix has won, that you're not, that you are evil. You're not. Jean, whatever happens, know that I love you, and I'll stand by you. And I you, Scott, with all my heart. So, here, the X-Men all agree that they're going to help, and they are transported to the blue area of the moon. While it was a duel of honor between Xavier and Lilandra, it's actually going to be fought by their proxies, the X-Men, and for Lilandra, the Imperial Guard. So the fight is to take place on the blue area of the moon, this awesome shot of that area. The X-Men are teleported down there, and so are the Imperial Guard. So Angel right away, out of practice, flies, and in the thinner gravity, almost makes a terrible mistake and gets carried away, but he's rescued. So the X-Men split into two teams to try and deal with the more numerous and powerful Imperial Guard. And the fighting begins. Very cool. There's Starbolt, Oracle, Manta, Smasher. Angel thinks the other guy is Smasher. I'll handle him. Not likely, Angel. Great shot here of Warstar, Cecile and Bini. We have met the X-Men, the enemy X-Men, and it is big. So they move forward. The two they're a dual being, and they separate. Gladiator shows up. Storm rescues Wolverine, and then they are attacked by more Imperial Guardsmen in this lower level. Earthquake, who's a lizard-like alien, and he's overwhelmed by Storm, but Hussar with her Neuro Whip grabs Storm, and then Earthquake finishes her off. Great fight, shot of the fight here. Cool kind of panoramic panel there. Nightcrawler thinks, our powers and tactical skills are pretty evenly matched, except that all of our foes can fly. Cyclops and Jean can strike at long range, and Angel can fight them in their element. But I'm just a glorified acrobat. So Nightcrawler isn't able to do much. But here, Smasher finishes off Nightcrawler after Oracle zaps him with a psychic bolt. And Nightcrawler goes to rescue Angel as he goes plummeting to his death. Meanwhile, Wolverine, who in this panel back here was by earthquake knocked off balance and through this wall into a weird domicile, and it turns out to be the domicile of the Watcher, who basically takes a few panels to torture Wolverine and then throws him out. Storm, who apparently is back even though she was knocked out, comes to help Wolverine, and he realizes it's not her. She's trying to choke him. And so he flips her, and it turns out that it's Raxor. And Wolverine is taken out by this Kree Beldon. You saved me, Kree? You? That insult I will not endure. So again, their fight, what happens to them, is covered by Byrne and Mark Bright and Mike Gustovich in Fantastic Four Annual number 18, which I intend to cover on the show here. We're getting to the end here. Nightcrawler's the last one. Well, not the last one. Almost the last one. He's blasted by mana. Here, Colossus takes out Beni and one part of Warstar. Sicil takes out the Beast. And before Colossus can twist him into a pretzel, we have this awesome fight sequence as Gladiator shows up, and it's pretty great. They're going blow for blow here, and Gladiator wins. No. Oh, my X-Men, I felt that you had a chance. I never dreamed things would end like this. Forgive me, my children. So now we're down to our last two, Marvel Girl and Cyclops. They take a brief respite, and then they go out and have their last stand. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Jean Grey, a man named Scott Summers. They were young. They were in love. They were heroes. Today, they will prove it beyond all shadow of a doubt. But, Majestrix, something is happening. Our instruments are registering off the scales. No, Shara and Kithri, no. And the ship is blasted, and Phoenix is back. And Xavier wakes the X-Men up. You can see she's taken out all the Imperial Guard here, including Gladiator. Oh, Jean, no. Professor X contacting me telepathically? Cyclops, attack Phoenix now while she is still comparatively weak. Professor, there has to be some other way, please. So he's trying to attack her. So she's not Dark Phoenix yet. She's Phoenix still. So the X-Men are trying to stop her. But they know ultimately there's only one way to stop her. Great shot here of Wolverine reversing the old fastball special in the lighter gravity. His prodigious strength allows him to throw Colossus, who in the end pulls his punch. Wow, you pulled your punch, Peter. And even so, I'm surprised my head's still attached to my body. Thanks, though, for knocking some sense back into me. Now I truly understand what I am and what has to be done. So here she runs away, and she's in the Dark Phoenix costume. Her transformation is accelerating. The choice was never yours to begin with. Telekinetic force bolt. I can't move. She paralyzes Cyclops. You see, Scott, I told you. Jean to Phoenix to Dark Phoenix, a progression as inevitable as death. You, of all people, should know how I feel through the psionic rapport we share. So here, she does the ultimate. If even one more person died at my hands, it's better this way. Quick, clean, final. I love you, Scott. So she activates this ancient blaster from the site, from the old city. A part of me will always be with you. Jean, no. And she disintegrates herself, letting her defenses down. Oh, Jean. Cyclops thinks to himself in despair. And here the recorder, who is a Rigelian robot who used to pal around with Thor, comes in. He's been recording the incident as well, and he and the Watcher have a long dissertation on the nature of humanity and sacrifice to end our tale at page 185. So there it is, 185 pages of absolute brilliance. The Uncanny X-Men Marvel Trade Paperback #2. This was the first printing. Beware of subsequent printings. They had some printing gaffes in them, some blobs of color oddly placed here and there. If you can ever find this, track it down. Make sure it's the first printing. But this is my nicely spiral bound version. I hope you enjoyed this read through of the Dark Phoenix Saga, the entire Dark Phoenix Saga. Happy holidays. And if you enjoy the video, like and subscribe, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.